welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Creighton Show. Another exciting show and definitely another exciting guest. Today we're going to talk with how do I want to introduce this lady? So this is how we're going to do this. I'm doing something different today and throughout the series. We're going to talk 30 questions in 30 minutes. But let me go here with this. How about faith that doesn't punish? Let me go here with this. Imagine, if you will, your great grandfather goes deep into the Amazon and gets lost. No rescue, no nothing. Your grandmother holds it down. She passes. You're born, and all of a sudden you get visited by a spirit, by some type of angelic voice that says, pull out a pen and paper and write. And I'm pretty sure, being young, you're probably asking yourself, how does that make any sense? Well, things happen. Let's go even deeper. Today's guest, I took down a lot of notes. Today's guest is truly one who has taken her grandmother's wishes and put the pen down. She's a multi-talented creator, a violinist, teacher. She's an independent entrepreneur, a visionary. Uh, she has basically breathtaking Irish Smith legends and series and put them into a best-selling novel called The Lost. I mean, oh my God, this just goes on. She has definitely built the brand with a zero roadmap to success, removing all gatekeepers, and an absolute relentless willpower. And I got to call that what it is. This is a simple beast mindset. Let's welcome to the show the one, the only Brigid Kennedy. What's up, baby girl?
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was an amazing intro. I loved it.
I had to sit down when I saw the bio. I'm like, okay, I got to write down a complete thing on how I'm going to introduce. And you just had so much on your resume. I was like, holy smoke! But before we get to the 30 questions in 30 minutes, and the questions will be in no, I put them in chronological order. Let me tell you why I did this. Because your journey started here, and then it has a what we call continuing path. So that's how I formatted the 30 questions. Now, before we do the 30 questions in 30 minutes, tell the viewers a little bit about you before we get into that journey.
I'm a mother, I'm a violinist, and now I am a writer. I'm about to turn 50 and this just landed on my plate. It was a request from my deceased grandmother. So it was 2 a.m. I was sound asleep. And it wasn't a dream. It wasn't a premonition. I mean, she was there. It was real, her face, her voice. And she got right down to it, just like she did when she was alive. And she said, write my story. Then she was gone. And 3 years later, here I am in front of you, lovely people.
How old were you when you had this encounter with your grandmother?
So I was 46.
And you had never any type of revelations or dreams about your grandmother prior to that? This is your great grandmother, right?
No, just my grandmother. So this is the daughter of my great grandfather who got lost
Okay.
in the Amazon. No, she. I mean, I think I am a very spiritual person, a very open-hearted person, and I do hear like little whispers, little guardian angel whispers. But this was different. I mean, this was her voice, and she had a directive for me, and and when a loved one looks at you in that particular way, you can't say no. And I wasn't going to be the one to tell Catalina Kennedy no.
Now, did fear come over you? Did you recognize her immediately? I would think if something came to me at the age that it happened, like what was that like? Were you in a state of paralyzation? Were you calm? How? Because the reason I'm asking this is you're talking about an angelic force, energy. Let's call it what it is. I tell
Yeah.
people all the time, you don't die. You just energy just keeps moving. So it came to you in a form in which you had to recognize. So you saw pictures of her and was able to relate the two. And more importantly, how did she come to you? And was there any fear upon you?
Oh, I mean, I had years with her. She died when I was about 16, 17 years old. So, I mean, I had a whole childhood with my grandma. And so I knew her and and her voice, and we had a special bond and relationship. But from years 16 to 46, she never visited me. And you know, I've been doing a lot of podcasts and a lot of interviews, and I think I got some outside perspective of it. So it's a calling, what happened. And callings come from somewhere more divine, and they know more than you do. And I think my grandma knew that I needed to be on a new path in this point of my life. And I think that's why she came to me now instead of beforehand. But I wasn't scared.
Yeah.
Um, it was surreal, and it was very quick. And so when she vanished, I kind of just sat up in the dark and just thought about the words that she was saying. And I knew what she wanted me to write. It's the same story I heard passed around the table through all the special occasions and holidays. I knew what she wanted me to write. The only problem was I'm a violinist. I write music, not novels.
Let me go here. Um, you said she mentioned something about the path that you were already on. Was that a path of destruction, unhappiness, unfulfillment? Why did she
Yeah.
purposely say that to you?
My path, I mean, I'm a wife, I'm a faculty spouse, I'm a mother, and a a professional violinist, violin teacher. I have a very happy life. Um, I had a normal life, scheduled every minute of the day, especially when you have kids in sports, right? Um, Everything was planned. I knew what I was going to do next week, next month, next year. And I think it was like that normal pace that you just kind of settle in, right? And it's like, okay, this is my life, this is my job, and you just do that. But what she presented to me was a whole new spark of passion that I never knew I was missing.
So, what was she like? Was she adventurous? Was she outgoing? Was she? The reason I'm saying that your life was built around structure. It doesn't mean fulfillment. It means that
Yeah.
you was built around structure. So evidently, she saw maybe she went down that path at one time and something changed her to maybe be more rambunctious or something. What was her life like?
Well, she's very smart and she was very family loyal, but she was brave. She was brave. And and she did end up leaving her country of Peru and coming to America to build a whole new life. And so I think that takes extreme amount of strength and dedication and bravery.
Let me start with my 30 questions. Let's get straight to the root of it all. Your great grandfather ventured into the Amazon and simply never came back. When you look back at that empty space he left in your family's history, do you feel angry, curious, a strange kind of kinship?
Well, the whole picture of it is my great grandfather. He was an Irish treasure hunter and he was a big time historian. And he went on a very lucky poker hand, the map to the lost city of ink and gold with the actual pieces to prove that the map was real. And he ventured from his home soil across the open seas of the Atlantic. 3 months it took on a trade ship to get to the port of Lima and and to cross into the borders of the Peruvian Amazon. You have to cross over a little town called Arequipa. And that's where my great grandmother's hacienda was, the Rodriguez family. And when he was trekking over, he found my grandmother and they met, they fell in love, they had kids, and he continued to do his expeditions into the Amazon, getting deeper and deeper over time. And so throughout the years, they've had a couple kids, and then on one fateful expedition, he never returned. We don't know what he saw. We don't know what he found. We don't know what kept him from coming back to us. Um, but the thing is that he had all the information. He had all the connections to the Irish side of the family, all of our ancestors in there. He had the map, he had everything. And over the years of the expeditions, it cost a lot of money. And he ended up dwindling down the wealth of the Rodriguez family. And so when he disappeared, everything was lost. Everything was gone. And my great grandmother, Eudosha, she was now left as a single mom, penniless in Peru, and wondering if her husband was going to come out of the Amazon any day. Maybe he got injured. Maybe it's going to take a couple weeks, a couple months for him to come out. Every single day, we wondered if he was going to come out. And and their daughter, Catalina, that's my grandmother that I grew up with. And so the story and the pain is not so far away from me. And so it left a hole. It left grief. It left sadness in our family. And at that point in time, that's kind of where our family stopped right there.
And people need to understand that was, they didn't do an extensive investigation at that time, especially in the Amazon. They're not going into the jungle,
1910.
yeah, trying to find you. Let me get to my next question here. Your grandmother didn't just mention this story, she also asked you to write it down. How heavy was that responsibility sitting down on your shoulder? And did you ever feel like you were holding a ghost by the hand while you were writing?
Well, after she visited me that 2 a.m., and I thought about what she said, well, I got up and I made a pot of coffee right then and there, and I started writing. And at first, it was like the genealogy of it, the names, the peoples, the places, the times, right? And the stories that I've heard over the years. And my pen stopped writing when I got to that same spot where he never returned out of the Amazon. And I heard my grandmother, like, just like behind me, encouraging me. She's like, keep going. I'm like, but grandma, this is this is where our family stops. This is where our story stops. What do you mean keep going? And she's like, keep going. And then she started playing like this movie in my mind about the continuation, about the children finding the journal and venturing into the wilds of the Amazons. And every single minute they were surviving the cannibals and headhunters and temples of death and doom. Their bonds kept growing stronger and more resilient, and then suddenly the sadness and the tears and the grief started turning into rejoicing and joy and laughter and bonding. And the kids do find out what happened to their father, and they come face to face with it. And at the end of that book that I wrote, it was, I don't even think I'm an author. I don't even think I wrote it. I think she was just down, like playing it in my mind. And I was just writing everything down and keeping up with what she wanted to do. But at the end of it, I looked back and I realized what I wrote. I wrote the ending that she never got to have. I wrote that closure for our family that nobody got to experience. I was able to bring back the joy and the happiness that they never had. And that's what she wanted me to write.
Wow. My next question. Oh, wow. The core of of the series, of your series, was with a Celtic myth with icon legends. How on earth do you bridge two ancient mysteries world separated by the ocean to make it feel like they belong in the same universe.
So the Celtic myths and the Incan legends, that's my bloodline. That's exactly who I am. My family talisman that I wear, the outer symbol is the Incan symbol for family, and the inner symbol is the Irish symbol for family. And together, it brings both the Incan and the Irish together for my bloodline. And when you talk about the mythology of the Celtics and the Irish and then the Incans, um, they're very similar because they are grounded in earth magic. And so blending the two mythology systems together, but still keeping its identity,
Right.
um, but they are able to interact. That's exactly what my family is. That's exactly what my family does.
Why do you think the responsibility was put on you? Didn't you have other siblings? Other,
I do. I do. I'm a middle child. I'm a middle child. But I had this really special bond with her. And I'm a very spiritual person, very open-hearted, and I'm always connected, like meditation-wise connected. Um, and I think I was just, it was either she knew it was time in my life to take this new journey, or I was just open at that time to receive the message. But I do think that kind of maybe both has to happen. Someone could be reaching out to you right now, but if you're with a lot of anxiety and you can't quiet your mind, if you always hear stuff and you can't quiet things down, maybe you're not open to hearing it yet.
what new information clearly, as you was writing this, thank you for the download. This is what I want to say. You've been chosen to carry on a story of myth, legend, culture. What about this so far that has completely blown your mind away? Because you've heard stories, but a lot of times stories don't tell you the complete picture. What have you learned so far that has been totally shocking for you with what your grandmother has now revealed to you versus what she revealed to you before she passed?
Well, I think it was twofold because the story that she wanted me to write was her bringing back the family and the unity and bringing the togetherness, the bond, and the joy and a closure. But in the process of writing my book, I had to go back to a lot of my aunts and uncles that I haven't talked to in maybe 30 years, across continents and everything. And to get what they remembered of the story, and to talk to them. But the thing is that our family had that grief. And when you have so much trauma and grief, um, everybody says you just got to talk about it. You got to open up. But that's the hard thing to do, because when you want to talk about it, you have to bring up that grief and bring up that pain again and look it square in the eyes. And that's a hard thing for us to do. And so when I was reaching out to my family, I didn't know if everybody or anybody would want to bring that up again. But they all did. And they all were sharing the stories and telling me what's been happening in their lives, over the years. And so not only did I reconcile and reclaim the the story for my grandmother aside and her generation, but she also, in her own way, brought our current family back together again.
It's funny now that you talk about it, and I know you do self reflection now.
Mhm.
Imagine, if you will, with me, the listeners and the people that are watching, how many other family members have that internal uh, uh, what I want to call it, sadness and emotional stuff in their pits and looking for a source to let it out. You became that vessel to not
Yeah.
only the vessel, but the conduit to bring all of their pain and their questions and their stories and myths and make it make sense to them. This was the reason all this happened. Let's go here. You now have your own family. You was in what your grandmother may call, she might send you a download if I'm saying this right. She saw you following a system or what I might call a matrix and bought something of an enlightenment to you. But at the same time, there was this fragmentation with generations of your family. You
Yeah.
now have a family. How do they feel about what you're doing, especially your husband? How does he feel about what you're doing? And all of a sudden, this responsibility has been given on you. And how do your kids look at it?
I was worried. I was worried because I knew that this this ask of me would have changed the course of my life and take time. As a mom, that motherly grief is huge. When you want to do something for yourself, taking time, that has to be time taken away from your husband so that you could do this, or from your children that you have to do this. So there was dinners that I was like, guys, you're gonna have to cook your own. There was times where my husband had to take my daughter to cheer practice, and handle the after school sports. There was so much time that I had to take away from them so I could do this project. But when a calling comes to you and it's from a greater being and it's almost anointed that path, and if you choose to say yes, that path becomes very easy for you. So I had a lot of fear and a lot of worries that they weren't going to let me do this and keep me from saying yes to my grandmother, but they didn't. Everybody came on this wild journey with me. My husband, my daughter, my violin studio, my symphony, the youth orchestra that I teach.
Yeah.
Everybody came on this journey with me and encouraged me, and I was surprised where those minutes and the hours started showing up for me to do these type of things.
Okay, I just got to ask this question. You wake up, your grandmother comes to you energetically. You tell your husband, that's your first resource. So you tell your husband, and then you tell him that you want to go on this. You've been anointed to go on this spiritual uh, uh, um, adventure. What was he saying without getting too deep? Because I think people need to understand if most people, if it was, let's call it the real world, they'd be like, "Are you crazy? Did you eat too much this last night? Did you watch a scary movie? Like, what was his? How did you convince him that what you were saying was actually there? Because you're dealing with spirituality and a lot of people who get married, you don't really know their political beliefs, and you really don't know their spiritual beliefs. So now you got to come at him with everything that happened formatted. Because at the end of the day, you got to get his blessing as well, because he's your husband.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes. Well, when I woke up at 2 a.m., he's a night owl, so he stays up all night, and I usually am in bed by like 9 p.m. And I got up and I started making a pot of coffee, and he heard noises in the kitchen, and I think from that moment he knew he knew something was up. He's like, "Whoa, this is my wife. She's never up, at 2 a.m." And so he came to me. He's like, "Are you okay? Is anything wrong?" And I'm still kind of frazzled a little bit. I'm getting on a coffee high. I'm wide eyed. I'm trying to sort out everything that I need to do in my brain real quick. And so he could see something was different in me. And I told him, just straight up told him, like I told y'all, just my grandmother, 2 a.m., came to me. She was there. And I told him everything that she told me to do and what I need to do. And I think back then we didn't know how big it was going to be.
Yeah.
Funny thing about writing and publicity and like getting published and everything.
Right.
Um, writing the most wonderful book that the world has ever seen is the easy part.
I know
That's
he had to go get a shot of whiskey or vodka
yeah,
or something.
that's the easy part. And the hard part is everything that came after. So if I thought I put in the time to write what my
Yeah.
grandmother wanted me to write, that was peanuts in times compared to how much time it takes to do to be published and to get out into the world. And so I think it was kind of like a slow builder. So like nobody kind of knew what it was going to happen, and then it got published, and then my whole world just blew up, and it's been a wonderful ride, and I cannot believe the reception that the book has had.
Mhm.
And funny thing is, I did another podcast, and before the interview started, the host said, she's like, "Can I pull cards?" And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "Kind of like tarot cards,
Yeah.
spiritual cards." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm a good Catholic girl, and I'm very spiritual and open, but I've never done anything like that." And I knew it could go bad as well as it could go good. And this was live. So I was like, "Sure, let's do it." And so at the end of the interview, she got her cards out. She starts shuffling, shuffling, shuffling. And so she did it. So she read my cards, and they're all good. And my question to the universe was, is my grandmother happy
Yeah. That's what I
with
figured you was gonna say.
my what I've done? So my grandmother spoke to me through those cards. And here's what it is. She is happy. She is happy with what I did. But she told me that I have to stay flexible because something big is coming my way that is not what I expect. And my journey is not done yet.
So what do you
So,
think that is that your
oh
journey's
goodness.
not done? Because usually what happens is when you get anointed, is I think that might be the word to use here. When you get anointed, your whole your whole being changes because you've been anointed with enlightenment was what I might call it, enlightenment. And usually when you have that beast mindset shift into awakening, you kind of have a feeling where you need to go. The thing is, you begin to ask yourself, how do I create the roadmap to get there? So, in other words, what I'm saying is, you probably already see what your grandmother's saying. The ideal is, which one do you what do you think she's is going to what do you think is going to happen to you? What kind of opportunities do you think is going to open up? Because usually you already see it. And the ideal is, do I have the roadmap? How is it going to happen? Who's going to come into my life? And you start to really, I don't want to call it over processing because a lot of people say, well, you overthinking. I don't think it's overthinking. I think it comes to a time you're now awakening and you want to make sure that you attach your meaning into the right channel frequency. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. So so as soon as the card reader told me that, um, I I there was a sequence of events that put me into a certain location. And it was Florida. Um, and and our we have a connection, my grandmother and I, through the ocean. And it was a sequence of events that got me to beachfront of Florida because just all of a sudden this summer, every single seaside town requested me to come and do an author spotlight and book tour. I was like, okay, like every single one, right? I mean, Florida was calling, and I went. And and it took a while for me to schedule that podcast, and it was at the day that I was there beachfront. And when when I got that message from my grandmother, and all 3 cards were all ocean blue, all water related. I'll just leave that out there. So as soon as I got that message from her, I I I put on my flip-flops and I went out to the ocean, and I took my flip-flops off, and I got into the water, and I was just kind of meditating and they're trying to connect to her. And all the rest of the weeks I was trying to do it. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Because when you make your own plans,
Yeah.
it's not the divine's plan, right? You got to let the big man, lead the way. And so I was trying to be open to it. So as of right now, I still don't know what it is.
Hmm.
I'm still trying to connect to her
Mhm.
and to figure it out. But maybe my job is not to know what it is right now.
Right. So when you had the vision to go to Florida, was it a specific location? Did you go to Dustin? Where did you go?
Yeah, we went to Destin. So we went to Destin, but it was all the whole seaboard from Pensacola straight across, like Niceville, Destin, Seaside, Rosemary, just straight across there, and then all the way to Melbourne, Florida, which is on the east coast side of Orlando.
Yeah.
And there I actually got to do a co-signing with a New York Times bestselling author. And she requested me, and I was like, oh my gosh. So it just kept getting better and better through it. But yeah, it was a definite signal when the entire seaboard calls and emails you in one day and says, you have to come down. And I'm a Virginia girl. And I'm just
Right.
like, okay, I'm coming. And so, when, uh, how should I say?
Before we wrap up,
Yeah.
we're gonna have you come back and talk about the violin part. So I'm not gonna talk about the violin part of your journey. We're gonna stick with your grandfather and your grandmother in the book. So my question here is, so much has happened to you that you didn't expect. You was on a road of that you say was great. I mean, but somehow or another, a different timeline looked down or looked up and saw something completely different and anointed you with this. What has been the toughest part of this learning experience for you? And the
Oh
reason
my
I say that
goodness.
is because your grandmother saw structure, and I tell people structure isn't always healthy.
Sorry. I think for me, it was it was the imposter syndrome.
Go deep with that. What do you
So
mean,
so like
imposter syndrome?
that fear, I'm not a writer. I went to university for music, not for writing. Um and and to sit there and to be filling her story the way she wanted to be. Like even now, I think I was just writing down what she wanted me to write. Um, but then stepping into that world of publishing, stepping into all of that, and you have to label yourself an author. That fear just keeps eating away at you, like you're not good enough, you're not qualified enough for this calling, what you want to do. um, and you have no business, being in this world or associated with this world. And I really had I couldn't get rid of it, but what I was able to do is kind of shove it down enough to where it was kind of like a quiet negative whisper. And what I had to learn to do is I had to learn how to live my life the way to bring me joy with that doubt. And I had to learn to write through that doubt. And I had to learn to believe in myself through that doubt. So, and I kept telling myself, nobody is an expert when they first begin something. And I just had to keep telling myself that it is a learning experience. things.
Mhm.
And boy, oh boy, have I learned over the past 3 years.
What would you tell the viewers um, who may have that imposter syndrome? And let me go here with that so it makes sense. Imposter syndrome can also mean, like you said, doubting yourself, putting
Yeah.
yourself in a situation and doubting that you can take that leap to go to that next chapter in your life or to achieve something totally beyond what you perceive as unachievable. So my question here is, what should the viewers take away from this part of your story? And like I said, we're gonna have you come back and talk about the second part of your story, which is your violinist and how all this ties together. But what should the viewers get from this story? We see that beast mindset, we see that resilience, we see that empowerment, but it wasn't always like that. So what would you tell the viewers?
Well, I feel that the imposter syndrome, those negative whispers, comes from something that wants to hold you back, comes from something that's not part of you, that's not true, that's fear, right? It wants to control you. And and I really believe that once you label it what it truly is as an anchor, something that's not serving you, I think you can start to move past it because it's not whispering true things. Is whispering the worst things to you. And that's not who we are naturally in our beautiful souls. So I think we have a right to put it down and put it away and move beyond it. And as soon as you label it, that's the anchor that I don't want to be tied to. You can start moving away.
Makes perfect sense. You wrote the book. It took time. What are at least three of the most inspirational parts of that book that when you now look, it's really made an impact on you? At least three of the key components of that book are stories.
Yes, yes. Well, the stories that came out, some stories that I'd never heard before, like their love story of how they met and what happened, blew me away. I was like, no way.
Okay, share a
And then,
little bit of it. You got to give the whole kid and caboodle. How did they meet?
okay,
What happened?
okay. So
Did did he give her gold?
when he was crossing through from the Porto Lima to the Amazons, he came across her hacienda. It is Peruvian tradition to invite travelers to stay, to be hospitable. Well, they were very wealthy, aristocratic Peruvians, and the very next day was a Spanish bullfighting match. And the two Irish brothers, they never seen a Spanish bullfighting match, and they were very excited. So they invited them to go. So as the next day, they had like front row seats called Barrera seats. And my great grandfather was so excited, he started jumping up and down, up and down. And then he leapt over the railing into the hard packed dirt of the arena. The crowd went wild, shouting, Green go, which means white guy. And they threw him a sword and a cape, and he fought that bull.
He became a
And
matador.
he became an Irish matador. And so, on one dramatic pass, the bull came underneath the cape, very close, and he turned to my great grandmother, Yadosha, and he flashed her like a courtier smile, like, "Ooh, look what I can do." And right then, that bull turned his horns and hooked him into the side and the thigh and launched him into the air. Well, the medics were able to save his life, but he had deadly wounds and he couldn't go into the Amazon the very next day. And Yadosha stood by his side, by the bed, and she became his nurse. And over the next few weeks, while he was healing, that's when they fell in love. So that's one part of the story, which is like, oh my gosh. The second part is you might have mentioned I said Irish brothers. So when he left Ireland after that poker game, well, everybody at that poker game wanted that match. So he knew he had to get out of town if he wanted to stay alive and keep the map. And he took his younger brother John with him, which is 1 year younger. So they both ventured across the seas. They got to Lima, all this stuff. So when Robert was in bed with the bull binding wounds, John, his brother, went into the Amazon with a guide to befriend the local tribe members to see if the map was real. He actually fell in love with one of the tribal ladies, and he thought he found his true treasure in her. And he decided to live his life in the Amazon. They actually got married and raised two daughters in the heart of the rainforest. Who does that, right?
Wow.
That's another thing that just blew my mind. And so when he was going on his expeditions, he had to do it by himself because John was now with his true love and he just wanted to stay in the Amazon tribe. And so that's why he went in, my great grandfather went in by himself all of those years. And then when he came out, everything was lost. The connection to Ireland, his family, his ancestors, the connection to John. Nobody knew where John was deep in the Amazon. Nobody could get word out to him, right? And so, what I want to do, what I want to do someday is go on a book tour to Peru, to Arequipa, to the jungle, and I want to take a couple of copies of Lost with me because Amazon doesn't deliver to the Amazons, and they probably don't know the history of their family and all the history that I put together, those girls, and they're probably still in the Amazon somewhere. And I want to go and hand deliver these books to them so they can know their further connection and family and traditions.
This is truly beautiful. Thank you so much for taking time to come on the show and share a story of that resilient mindset that you have, that definitely that beast mindset. How can the viewers reach out to you, get a copy of the book?
Oh, yes. Well, everything is at Brigid Kennedy Books. So if you go to my website, brigidkennedybooks.com, you can get all the goodies, the merch, all the books, and I have on there my audiobook. And since I am a violinist, a professional musician, I did arrange my own theme song and soundtrack for the entire book, and it's a completely cinematic experience. So I highly recommend to do that. And all my socials are at Brigid Kennedy Books. And I do want you to go to YouTube because at Brigid Kennedy Books, I am doing a special author's dream series where I actually read the entire book, chapter by chapter. So you hear it from the author, but then I go and give you all the behind the scenes details of each chapter. And then I take out the true family photos, their wedding photos in Arequipa, the actual photos of Kat and Robbie. And I tell you about the true treasure hunting of our family and what they have found. And it's a fantastic journey. So I tell you what's true in the book and what's not true in the book because it is a fine line. And everybody who thinks I made something up usually is the true thing that happened in my family. So I do recommend to go to YouTube and hear my stories.
You know what, you guys, make sure you do that. Make sure you subscribe, click, follow. Like I said before so many times, all it takes is one click to make a difference in your life or change somebody else's life. Baby girl, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Definitely gonna have you come back. We're gonna talk about being a professional violinist and a teacher. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another, and I do mean another, exciting episode of the Andre Beast Creighton Show.